Today could be a turning point for BP. After a 2-day delay, the company has started testing a new well cap in its latest attempt to stop the oil leak in the Gulf. So could we be near the end of this disaster? And even if the leak is stopped, what does the future hold for the Gulf? Michael Bruno, Dean of the Schaefer School of Engineering and Science at the Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey, and Jerry Alt is Professor of Marine Biology and Fisheries at the University of Miami. First, to Mr. Bruno, good morning, good to see you again.
Thanks.
Why is this so hard? Getting this thing capped, why is it so hard?
Well, we begin with the depth, 5,000 feet, and then at the other end, 18,000 feet below that seafloor is an enormous amount of pressure. Oil trying to rise up to the seafloor under enormous pressure. So in combination, it's really, really difficult.
I mean, April 20, Deepwater Horizon sank on April 22nd.
Right.
It's May to June. It's now almost 3 months later.
Yeah.
I mean, hard or not, shouldn't they have gotten something more accomplished in 3 months?
You know, they should have had something ready. I think that's really the end story here is
Great point.
Before they went to that depth, they should have had something ready to respond. They do now. I think this shows signs of work.
You might equally blame the regulator as blame BP for that. It's not.
I blame everybody.
Yeah. Jerry, can you explain to us
Yes.
what they're trying to do today as we look at these live pictures coming through?
As far as I understand, the issue is to provide a cap on the oil spill, but the concern, of course, is additional pressure in the system that may cause it to, in fact, rupture the already stressed piping. And so great concern and trepidation.
I don't want to be pessimistic about this, but in a sentence, what happens if they rupture it?
Well, let's kind of put it in perspective, is that the Gulf, for example, the Gulf fishery resources represent about $41 billion a year of economic revenue. The area is a national treasure, and the area provides a fundamental framework, if you will, for the tourist economy, but providing hundreds of thousands of jobs for folks. So additional oil in the system, where we've already got millions of gallons, one in the surface, but an unknown quantity below subsurface, could really lead to a catastrophic ecological disaster in the system that, one, if you will, breaks the fabric of the system, but two, degrades our capacity to derive economic benefits from the region.
Professor Alt, I assumed, or well, maybe you didn't, there was a story, boy, it was either today or yesterday, about how autopsies on these dead sea animals are showing that many of them are not contaminated with oil. Did you see that? And if you did, what did you think?
Well, you know, this process is kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. The direct toxicity of the animals, if you will, encountering, ingesting, etc., that's certainly part of it. But the other issue is that with the oil in the water, essentially it's a fabric, if you will, that bacteria can explode. And what that does is, if you will, sucks the oxygen out of the water. And so, if you will, many of these areas are becoming anoxic, and in fact, that provides a real fatal blow to animals that require oxygen in the water to breathe.
Yeah. Professor Bruno, you know, what we do next, what we do in the future, in researching since this began, one of the interesting things I found was the way the Dutch handle things. The government owns a fleet of spill-fighting vessels, for lack of a better term.
Right.
You know, with all the drilling in the Gulf, that kind of appeals to me on a logical basis that maybe we should have that going on for us.
Well, let's go back to the Exxon Valdez accident. The Oil Pollution Act that was passed by Congress right after that accident created the Marine Spill Response Corporation. The feeling back then was industry should bear the cost of building, maintaining these fleets of skimmers and booms, and also invest in research and new technologies to contain and clean up. In the years that followed, frankly, there was not enough investment in the MSRC. We've learned a lesson, and I think probably the future is going to hold something different.
All right. Gentlemen, I wish we could...
Professor Bruno, can you just tell us what we're seeing here? Can you just talk us through what's briefly, if you will? What do we see?
Yeah, is that oil?
No, that's oil. What you have is there are 3 different places on that top cap through which oil can escape. They've shut down one, that middle one, and slowly they're going to ramp down the, they'll shut off a second one, and then the third one, they're going to slowly ratchet it down, basically to give them time to monitor the pressure. They don't want to abruptly shut that off. It's kind of like a choke. They're calling it a choke line, and gradually they'll choke that down. At the same time, they'll measure the pressure. If the pressure holds, that means the pipe is fully intact, has the integrity to withstand the pressure through its full length, and they'll cap it. So if this works, as soon as later this afternoon, you might not see any oil escaping.
And is this in addition to the relief wells? Is this in addition?
This is separate too. So what then?
So we've got a second chance with the relief wells if this doesn't work now.
Well, this was never intended as the permanent fix. So if this works, the well will be capped at the top. In the meantime, the drilling for the relief well will continue, and I would expect within the next 2 weeks, relief well will be complete, and then they will permanently seal.
Because they inject gunk, mud and stones into
well,
the pipe.
Well, it'll be mud and concrete.
Stuff that, into the pipes, the passageways that are coming to the surface.
That's exactly right.
And is it obvious that the relief wells will hit the passageways, or is it like trying to hit a needle in a haystack?
Boy, they started from many miles away, hitting a 7-inch pipe. It's incredible. They're 4.5 feet away from the pipe as we speak. They have things like magnetometers that can tell them, yes, they're next to the pipe. So I believe they will hit it. They'll hit it when they say they will.
That's fascinating. So the problem or the complicating factor in this cap here is the pressure. If they were to just slam all those valves shut, it literally, in one way or another, just get blown off the top of the well.
Well, now more to the point, think about what's happened here. We had an explosion. Weeks and weeks after the explosion, we had the attempted top kill. So all these things could potentially have stressed out that pipe, that steel casing that goes down 18,000 feet. We don't know if that has happened. We don't know if it has, where it has. So that's why they'll continue to take the pressure. If the pressure goes down, that means the oil is escaping somewhere along the riser. That's a problem.
And the aim of the relief well is to divert the pressure into a manageable riser to the relief platform. Then I guess you can do whatever you want. It's much easier to deal with the leaking.
That's exactly right.
Just fill it full of whatever.
Fill it full of concrete. That's exactly
fascinating. All right, gentlemen, Professor Off, Professor Bruno, thank you both very much.
Thank you.